evening and welcome to the 50 Voices of a Nation. I'm Hugo Balta, Executive Editor of the Fulcrum, publisher of the Latino News Network, and your host. In November 2024, America took a sharp turn. Donald Trump returned to the White House, reigniting fierce debates over immigration, national identity, and the role of government in our daily lives. From National Guard deployments and ICE raids to sweeping tariffs and the dismantling of public institutions, the ripple effects are being felt in schools, clinics, businesses, and neighborhoods across the country. Yet in every corner of the nation, people and civic-minded organizations are rising to meet the moment. They're organizing and demanding a democracy that reflects their hopes, confronts their fears, and speaks to the realities they live every day. The 50 is a 4-year initiative by the Fulcrum to visit every state during the Trump administration, meeting with communities, listening to voters, and asking what drove them to the ballot box, and how is President Trump responding to their expectations. Trump secured 312 electoral votes carrying 31 states. In the popular vote, he edged out then Vice President Kamala Harris by just over 2 million ballots, a tight race that revealed deep divisions and urgent questions. The first swing state to flip red on election night was Pennsylvania, and that's where our journey begins. Reading, Pennsylvania, founded in 1748 and established as an industrial powerhouse in the mid-19th century, gave its name to the once Reading Company, also known as Reading Railroad. In a sea of red, the majority Latino city in southeastern PA voted for Kamala Harris by 30 points in the 2024 presidential election. Still, Donald Trump easily won Berks County, home to Reading, by 12 points, and the state by more than 50% of the vote. Voters of all ages and ethnic backgrounds in PA, including Ramon Martinez, co-owner of the Mofongo restaurant, pointed to the economy, the high cost of living, as the incentive to vote. But that wasn't the only reason.
Sé que la economía sigue mala, estaba bastante difícil en el periodo de Joe Biden, pero más quería votar en contra de Donald Trump por la retórica que tenía en contra de los inmigrantes y todo esto.
Martinez said Trump's deportation agenda has forced many immigrants into hiding, and it's hurt his business. Johanny Cepeda Freitis, co-owner of the nearby restaurant Su Casa Mi Casa, agrees. Cepeda Freitis is also a Democratic state representative. She is critical of dismantling institutions like the Department of Education that provide marginalized communities with resources to overcome barriers.
I mean, you have a wealthy white man who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth that could never identify with the experience that a person of color has had to endure. Because I have worked extremely hard, and I want to say a lot harder than my white counterparts to be able to get to where I'm at. I've always had to work harder to prove myself, my value, and my worth. And I could never expect our president to understand and much less relate to that.
We visited with Republican Michael Rivera, Berks County Commissioner, and talked about the complexity of immigration, including a distinction that drove many of his constituents to the polls.
One of the main topics that came up was the border, and it was illegal immigration. The people I spoke with had no issue around immigration. They understand, a lot of them themselves were immigrants, but they came in the legal way. The other situation that I spoke with people around is, you've been in the country, you came in, you immigrated, and you've been here for whatever, 10, 15, 20 years. It could have taken you 5 to 10 years just to get here. Then once you're here, it could take another 2, 5, 10 years to bring in your spouse or your family members. So these people have gone through the process, they've waited the time, they've paid the money, so they don't think it's fair for someone just to walk across the border and then get all the benefits that they have been able to acquire because they did things the right way. So the issue is illegal immigration, not necessarily just immigration.
The U.S. immigration system can be complex and challenging to navigate, making it difficult for some individuals to obtain legal status. Some people enter the U.S. legally with a visa, but stay beyond the permitted time, becoming undocumented.
The laws of the United States around immigration do need to be changed. Right now, if you look at jobs, there are more job openings than there are people that are able to fill those jobs. We're not going to birth our way out of that here in the United States.
Paterson, the third largest city in New Jersey, is best known by its nickname Silk City, for its once dominant role in silk production during the latter half of the 19th century. The Garden State has backed the Democratic candidate in every presidential election since 1992. So it wasn't a surprise that Kamala Harris won the state. What was surprising is by how much, a nearly 6% margin, marking the first single-digit margin of victory for a Democrat in New Jersey since 2004. What was also notable is that the reliably Democratic county of Passaic voted for Trump over Harris. The last time that happened was in '92 in support of George H.W. Bush. Support for Trump grew across diverse groups in the largest city in Passaic County. My hometown is a major destination for immigrants, including from Latin America, like my parents from Peru. 30 to 40,000 strong that call Little Lima su hogar. President Trump has referred to himself as the president of law and order. I visited with two childhood friends to discuss the shared responsibility of public safety and the need for a strong partnership between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Fernando Barboto is the head coach of men's soccer at New Jersey Institute of Technology and the New Jersey United Athletic Club.
Growing up in Paterson was, there was a lot of crime. I know I got into a lot of fist fights. Yeah, I think, that being a family man, young daughter, it's really important. It's super important to me. Make sure the schools are safe, make sure the streets are safe, and, make sure that the criminals are where they're supposed to be, in jail.
So growing up in Paterson was it had its socioeconomic problems, but there was a sense of community, and I think it's what kept me there and what still keeps me here.
Bernice Toledo is the former Passaic County Circuit Court judge and Deputy Attorney General dedicated mostly to child protection cases. I met up with her at the Silk exhibition in the Paterson Museum.
Public safety starts with private safety, right? Child protection is mitigating the traumas that happened at home so that a child is free to learn, so that a child doesn't turn to a life of crime or a life of despair.
Bernice believes public safety is not solely the domain of government agencies. It requires a proactive and collaborative approach from everyone in the community.
We can't rely only on law enforcement. We have to have community engagement programs. Sure, law enforcement is there maybe to set some parameters, maybe some direction, but public safety doesn't come from the top down. It's something that people have to become invested in, people have to believe in.
Retired Paterson Police Lieutenant Dalton Price is known for his strong community ties and involvement, including his work with the Bronze Shields of Passaic County in building trust between the police and the community. He's the author of The Guide to Community Policing.
Most police officers don't realize that probably 85% of what they do every day is community policing. You're not doing as much crime fighting as you think you are. Bringing down police work to meet people where they were. Talking to people, finding out what their issues were, what their concerns are as police officers, and trying to work through that and having different scenarios to work through.
Dalton says community policing is a philosophy and strategy focused on partnerships.
It's community and policing. How do we bring those two things together? But the community has to do their part also. Okay, do I think there's more onus on the police? Yes, because that's where I stand. But I think the community can do their part.
Hartford, Connecticut, a living archive of American democracy, innovation, and resilience. Like most of New England, Connecticut is considered solidly Democratic. Kamala Harris comfortably won the state by 14.5 points, but performed worse than Biden did in 2020. Meanwhile, Donald Trump secured 41.9% of the vote, the best Republican performance in Connecticut since 2004. With over 350,000 small businesses operating in Connecticut, employing nearly half the state's workforce, the stakes were high and the policy contrast between the candidates were sharp. I traveled to Trumbull for a free business resource fair to help entrepreneurs start, grow, and expand their small businesses. Economic and Community Development Director Rena Bacalar shared why anchor businesses aren't just economic engines, they're community cornerstones.
Well, they're the lifeblood of our community. In Trumbull, we have in many of our commercial centers locally run and locally operated businesses. We don't have a lot of nationals in our regional and neighborhood level commercial centers, which is great. That keeps money in the community more so, and I think that's instrumental. And as local, state, and federal officials, it's critical that we grow those local businesses because, again, they employ local folks, they create important amenities and services for the community. They know our community.
Connecticut's manufacturing roots stretch back to the late 18th century, when innovation laid the groundwork for the American system of manufacturing. Today, the Constitution State remains a national leader in advanced manufacturing, especially in aerospace and defense, a sector that's seen gains during the Trump administration. Manufacturing companies in Connecticut employ more than 157,000 people. Made in America excites Catherine Marks, District Director of the U.S. Small Business Administration's Connecticut District Office.
So we're excited about the manufacturing push. Manufacturing comes, especially in Connecticut, in so many sizes. You have very, very small companies that manufacture for our bigger businesses in the state of Connecticut, like Pratt & Whitney, Raytheon, Sikorsky, Electric Boat. We have a whole ecosystem of small businesses that supply those businesses with products and services.
Connecticut's diverse small business landscape includes wholesalers importing cut flowers who play a quiet but vital role in the global floral supply chain. As one of the largest suppliers of cut flowers to the United States, it is very likely the flowers you buy at your local florist or supermarket come from Colombia. In 2024, the United States imported approximately $1.6 billion worth of cut flowers and buds from the South American country. The Fulcrum visited the eastern highlands of Antioquia, Colombia, where Flores El Capiro exports millions of high-quality chrysanthemums from its floral farms in La Ceja to the U.S., supplying wholesalers and retailers with fresh-cut blooms year-round.
Miren que él empieza a cortar desde más arriba de la raíz, se corta, se arman los buquets dependiendo del cliente.
Valeria Plazas explained how El Capiro orchestrates a remarkably precise and delicate balance across every stage of its floriculture operation. This year's floral boom nearly unraveled when the Trump administration threatened to impose 25% tariffs on Colombian imports that included flowers, a retaliation for Colombia's refusal to accept U.S. deportation flight.
During the Valentine shipments, we have an estimated of 15 flights a day full of flowers, cargo planes full of flowers. So when you put this into context, it was millions and millions of stems that were sitting at the airport waiting to be decided what to do because we didn't know what the tariff was going to be. But if they would have imposed a 25% tariff on that, the industry could have easily collapsed.
The crisis was narrowly averted when Colombia agreed to accept deportees and the tariff orders were held in reserve. But to local florists like Nick Urlacher in New Britain, the damage was done.
Yes, I mean, it's very nerve-wracking, of course, with the tariffs, how they're talking about it. And we have seen already a little increase of the floral prices, which will reflect an increase of the prices of flowers in general to be buying this year.
On the other side of the break, we'll head out west to the plush forests of Washington State, the Mile High City in Colorado, and cowboy country, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Stay with us.
They say television is about sitting back. We say it's about stepping up. Your block has stories worth telling. Your neighbors have voices worth hearing. Chicago has a heartbeat worth sharing. Stop watching their world. Start showing yours. It's time to tune in and be seen. Can TV, always here, always yours. Experience the power of community television.
Welcome back. Positioned along vital corridors that bridge the Great Plains to the Rocky Mountains and stretch towards the Pacific Northwest, Cheyenne stands at the threshold between the heartland and the high country, linking Wyoming to Colorado's civic energy and Washington State's coastal promise. Its legacy as a place of passage and possibility continues to shape its identity, where movement sparks resilience and civic engagement remains a defining force. We continue our journey from the magic city of the plains. Cheyenne, Wyoming, where the spirit of the American West still rides tall. As the state capital, it stands as both a geographic and symbolic gateway to the frontier, blending rugged heritage with enduring civic pride. Founded in 1867, the Magic City of the Plains was established during the construction of the Union Pacific Railroad and quickly became a hub of commerce and cattle. In the 2024 presidential election, Cheyenne, situated in Laramie County, voted decisively Republican. Reflecting Wyoming's status as the most GOP-leaning state in the nation, Donald Trump secured a commanding victory with more than 70% of the statewide vote, the highest margin ever recorded by a presidential nominee in Wyoming's history. Voters in Wyoming viewed the election as a safeguard to their way of life, an opportunity to protect the values, traditions, and economic priorities they hold dear. Hi. Just 7 miles south of Cheyenne lies Terry Bison Ranch, the second largest bison ranch in the U.S., where rustic charm meets the untamed spirit of the American West.
This is the West. This is the Great Plains. Whenever people visit the ranch, I don't want them to see everything perfect. I want them to see it as it's working. The horses, and then the hay. Our horses break fences, they chew on board. The bison, huge. That comes in of knowing, when they're breeding, when they're dropping, when you need to sell. Shoeing school to our train and barn. One of the biggest rules on this ranch is every blade of grass counts. Being able to use acreage and land for the things that we need. This job, you have to love it. I'm working about 7 days a week. And this is the struggle. Every day it is the struggle, and being able to see it. How we've been successful is drawing from this area and this land the same way that it was used back then. We all make it work. It's the beauty in it. The beauty in knowing all of this.
Ranchers in Wyoming navigate a complex terrain of economic, environmental, and operational challenges, from escalating input costs and volatile weather to the ever-present need for diversified income. In the face of these pressures, the Wyoming Stock Growers Association, established in 1872, stands as a resilient force of advocacy and innovation, helping its members confront drought, market fluctuations, and evolving regulatory landscapes.
Things have changed over time, but we're still, I believe, relatively influential in the state, and we focus on really a wide array of issues that affect the economics of ranching in the state, the culture of ranching, because we feel that's a critical part of what defines Wyoming is our ranching and cowboy image. We're the cowboy state, so that's important to us. So in my role, I do a lot of policy work. I do lobby the Wyoming legislature when they're in session, and track and testify at meetings when they're out of session as well. That's important to us, and occasionally at the federal level as well. I've testified before Congress several times and work very closely with our delegation back there.
Population growth in Wyoming presents both promise and pressure for the ranching way of life. On one hand, a growing population can boost local economies, yet it also introduces challenges. Urban expansion encroaches on grazing lands, land values, and property taxes rise. Compounding this is the steady outmigration of young, educated Wyomingites who often leave for broader career prospects.
We haven't seen a lot of population growth, and the attitude of a lot of people in Wyoming, including particularly in our industry perhaps, is we don't want to see a lot of population growth. particularly people coming in from elsewhere. But we do need to do some things to keep our own next generation here, and that's one of the real concerns in Wyoming, is that young people, say going to the University of Wyoming, which are only 4-year institution, getting a good degree, 60% of them end up leaving the state. And so that's an area of focus for us as well.
With its majestic mountains, lush forests, and rugged coastline, it's no wonder Washington State is renowned for its stunning natural beauty. This makes it a beloved destination for nature enthusiasts and outdoor adventurers alike. Democrats have won Washington in every presidential election since 1988. As expected, Kamala Harris comfortably won Washington State in the 2024 presidential election. While Donald Trump improved his margin in all 50 states, Washington had the smallest swing to the right. Soon after returning to the White House, Trump quickly eliminated environmental safeguards on more than half of the nation's national forests, opening up 59% of the land for logging, including Washington. Nature is intricately embedded in the cultural identity of the evergreen state. Efforts to protect and restore the natural environment are not only concentrated on national parks, but also in urban green spaces. Residents enjoying the dense forest, wooden bridges, and waterfalls of the well-traveled Coal Creek Trail spoke to us about their love of the urban oasis.
I think it's important for my health to get fresh air, to disconnect from stress from work, and kind of to remember what this area was like before all the humans got here.
We do come to the Coal Creek Park probably 3 to 4 days a week, and we go to some of the other spaces. We have a dog. We love to bring our dog here, and it's a blessing to really be able to live in an area where 10 minutes from the main part of the city, you're on a river with trees and salmon running on the river, and the occasional bear. It is, it's beautiful.
An infrastructure project in Bellevue is currently underway to modernize crucial wastewater systems. This initiative aims to enhance fish and wildlife habitats while improving access to natural spaces for individuals of all abilities.
So the Coal Creek sewer upgrade is a large capacity-driven upgrade project. That is, we are upsizing the pipes to accommodate increased demand, essentially.
The design of King County's wastewater treatment division project has garnered recognition from Sound and Safe for its dual focus on minimizing environmental impact and enhancing local ecosystems. This independent eco-certification organization evaluates land management practices to ensure they support water quality and protect salmon habitats in the Pacific Northwest.
This is a great project, and actually it's the first stormwater or wastewater infrastructure project in the nation. As you can see behind us and all around us, we're really sitting in a beautiful area where we have a stream, we have a healthy riparian zone, we're really in an urban forest. But we also literally have a sewer pipe at an intersection with a creek that's salmon bearing. So this is a great example of how we can continue to restore nature, but also have highly engineered and functioning stormwater and wastewater systems coming through, and it not being a detriment to the aquatic life or the habitat here.
Effective community communication is vital for the success of an enterprise as large and ambitious as the Coal Creek Sewer Upgrade Project. It helps build trust, ensures project transparency, and fosters buy-in from stakeholders.
This is an iterative process that occurs from the moment that we community services start on a project, and it goes all the way through construction and into operations, where we're still supporting the community as these get launched. So on this project, when we started to work with people, we did what you see here, where we're putting on-site notices to say, hey, there's a project coming. We started to mail people, 9,000 people in the area, hey, there's a project coming, talk to us about this area. That's when people will come out and say, you need to know this about my values, and you need to know this about a project in this area.
Collaboration with governments is crucial for addressing projects that can significantly impact environmental outcomes. Bellevue's Mayor Lynn Robinson said partnerships allow for broader and more impactful solutions to complex problems.
Looking at all the opportunities that you have, we have all these lists of things we'd love to get done if we could, and pulling everybody together so that we can work together and get it done, and then you don't have to shut the system down for as long. When you think about putting salmon who had, a 12-foot stream, trying to undo some of the things we did wrong when we didn't understand. So we take every opportunity we can to create a healthier environment for the salmon.
Denver, Colorado, a vibrant, fast-growing city known for its stunning mountain views, progressive culture, and dynamic economy. In the 2024 presidential election, the Mile High City voted overwhelmingly for Democrat Kamala Harris, with over 80% of the vote. Across Colorado, Harris came out ahead, earning all 10 electoral votes with 54% support, while Donald Trump trailed at 43%. Housing affordability and homelessness emerged as defining motivators for Denver voters in 2024. Residents turned out in search of leaders with the courage to confront the city's housing crisis, demanding solutions that were both compassionate and accountable.
I mean, it's hell when you don't have a roof over your head and you're outside. I mean, it's terrible. I can't even describe how bad it is. And so once I came indoors, I didn't have all this stimulation that was causing me to be extra paranoid, or I didn't feel threatened, or, that's kind of, I think, part of the housing is healthcare. I mean, you automatically start to heal when you become housed.
The Colorado Coalition for the Homeless prioritizes housing policies that expand affordable housing, protect vulnerable populations, and integrate supportive services.
One of the things that makes me so frustrated in this space is that sometimes we talk about homelessness in the absence of talking about housing policy. When we know that housing is absolutely the solution to homelessness, even if that looks different for different populations, it is housing. And we need to be making significant investments in housing and ensuring that those investments are getting to the people who need it most. And so that's one of the things that we do a lot of advocacy around, both with the mayor's office and city council, as well as the state legislature, and even our representatives to the federal government. Because we know that without these investments, we just won't get the kind of housing that we need, and without housing, we'll never really be able to solve homelessness.
Denver's permanent supportive housing vouchers offer long-term rental aid and voluntary services for the unhoused and families with disabilities. But a recent HUD policy shift threatens major funding cuts, putting thousands at risk of losing their housing support.
Some of what the federal government is doing is really, really pernicious in that, yes, they're cutting housing vouchers. And of course, we've had far fewer vouchers than we've had people who qualify for vouchers for decades. Like, that's been an ongoing problem. Cutting them just means essentially pushing people into homelessness. I mean, that's what that is. Adding 2-year limitations, that gives the idea that we have some kind of functioning economy where if someone's in voucher housing for 2 years, suddenly then they can come out of that and make enough to pay for market rate housing in the Denver market. That's not reality. Market rate housing in Denver costs far more than minimum wage in Denver. So that's just not a realistic expectation. Maybe in some housing markets it would be, certainly not in any of our cities right now. I think the city needs to get into the business of owning and operating housing in the way that the federal government has traditionally done through housing authorities and things like that.
So I do worry a little bit because I don't make enough money to, get a market rate apartment.
When we return, we head back to the Midwest, to one of only 2 states that splits its electoral votes. We'll also visit a rural community relying on its immigrant workforce, now confronting the fallout of President Trump's aggressive deportation agenda. And we'll spend time in a city where leaders are reimagining public safety and pushing to defund the police. That's next.
They say television is about sitting back. We say it's about stepping up. Your block has stories worth telling. Your neighbors have voices worth hearing. Chicago has a heartbeat worth sharing. Stop watching their world. Start showing yours. It's time to tune in and be seen. Can TV Always here, always yours. Experience the power of community television.
Cable cord cutting, funding rollbacks, growing efforts to silence community voices. The stakes have never been higher for community television station. Since 1983, KNTV has proudly served as Chicago's home for truth, access, and accountability. From City Hall to your front door, we make sure your story is told. But to keep it local and to keep it real, we need you. Please visit cantv.org and donate today. The future of Chicago's voice is in your hands.
Across the heartland, democracy is being redefined, not just in voting booths, but in city halls, community centers, and rural job sites. In Nebraska, a 2-year waiting period for citizens with felony convictions has been eliminated, restoring their voice in the democratic process. In Wisconsin, a grassroots movement asked what if protection came from investing in people, not punishment. And in Iowa, immigrant workers are arming themselves with knowledge, solidarity, and civic power. We begin in the Cornhusker State. Lincoln, Nebraska, a dynamic Midwestern city, boasts a diverse economy anchored by robust sectors in government, healthcare, and technology. As the home of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, it also serves as a regional hub for education and innovation. In the 2024 U.S. presidential election, Lincoln leaned Democratic, with a majority of voters supporting Kamala Harris. This outcome reflects the city's progressive urban character, which stands in contrast to the broader political landscape of Nebraska. Statewide, Nebraska reaffirmed its Republican leanings, with Donald Trump receiving 59% of the vote to Harris's 39%, continuing the state's long-standing tradition of favoring GOP presidential candidates. Nebraska is only one of 2 states, alongside Maine, that splits its electoral votes by congressional district. That's why Harris was able to win one, despite losing the statewide race. Last year, Nebraska's legislature passed Legislative Bill 20, eliminating the 2-year waiting period that had prevented individuals with felony convictions from voting after completing their sentence. Jason Whitmer, policy strategist at ACLU Nebraska, spoke with the Fulcrum about the importance of re-enfranchising formerly incarcerated individuals and advancing civic inclusion across the state.
The larger population, and including the people incarcerated, say, when you get punished for do the crime, you do the time, you get punished for what you do, everybody loses their voting rights. It's just a validation of saying, it was never meant for you in the first place. So a lot of people in there, different life backgrounds, already are feeling disenfranchised from it. This was just one more thing saying, not for you. We don't want you part of this. And then you start buying into that because it's much easier just to believe, I don't care.
Whitmer's commitment to restoring voting rights is deeply informed by his personal journey, including time spent in prison and solitary confinement.
I also been through the systems. I've been through all, not all, but a lot of Nebraska's, foster care, juvenile, adult prison systems. Some from my behavior, a lot of other things from, factors in my life and situations that have gone throughout my life. But this opportunity to vote, laws, policies, all these things from the schools that our kids go to our life are affected by what you vote on. Who's getting voted in to make these decisions, when opportunities come to vote on policies and etc. And so the more I was involved in community, the more I started to understand it's going to affect my life in this democracy. It affects my kids, it affects my family, it affects people in the community. Chance to feel like I'm part of the overall society. One more thing out of your way from being a more accepted member of the community. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Civic Nebraska partnered with the ACLU of Nebraska to champion the bill as a meaningful step toward building a more inclusive and participatory democracy.
It was very stressful. It was a long process, and we ultimately succeeded. LB 20 was, put into law, and those folks who were not formally able to vote finally had that opportunity. And so it felt really good to be a part of that in partnership with so many other individuals and organizations to ensure that, once again, all Nebraskans have the opportunity to vote in elections and have their voice heard and how they want to be impacted.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Not just the state's largest city, it's a political bellwether with deep roots in progressive activism, labor movements, and urban reform. A Democratic stronghold, the city consistently votes blue in presidential elections and sends Democratic representatives to the state legislature and Congress. Wisconsin was considered to be a crucial battleground in the 2024 presidential election. Donald Trump won Wisconsin with more than 49% of the vote, the highest percentage a Republican candidate has received in a Badger state since Ronald Reagan's 1984 landslide. With more than 85% of registered voters casting their votes, Milwaukee had the highest voter turnout among the 50 largest U.S. cities in the November election. Public safety isn't just a campaign talking point. It's a lived reality shaping how residents vote, engage with their neighbors, and envision the future of their city. Milwaukee has faced persistent challenges with violent crime, including a surge in homicides and non-fatal shootings. As of late 2024, the city had recorded over 100 homicides and just under 600 non-fatal shootings. The Fulcrum sat down with Police Chief Jeffrey Norman to discuss how his department is tackling crime and building trust.
So I would say that as our role as law enforcement, our prime directive is crime fighting. I mean, holding individuals accountable for violating the law, doing things that are, again, only that we can do in regards to those who bring harm to our community. It is important for us to be responsive. It's important for us to be intentional. It's important for us to be many times proactive, meaning that there's issues in certain parts of the community, being intentional about looking for those who are bringing harm, those who are firearm violence, whatnot. But on the flip side, community policing, with the intentionality behind that, especially a part of our vision and mission of the Milwaukee Police Department, is effective community engagement. Effective community engagement, interacting with our community, understanding the needs of the community, gives us the playbook of what they want from us in regards to service. And so I look at community policing being in front of crime fighting, because that gives you the guidepost or direction about what our community expects in regards to the service that we deliver. I don't like to talk about the end game of these incidents. I like to know, as we're working this out, solving that, how do we prevent the next one? Community engagement allows us to have the ability, when we talk about prevention, working with our partners, how do we redirect energy and efforts that, with these outcomes, meaning someone died or someone is hurt or harmed, what can we do as a community when you do community policing, or working more of the preventive end?
While traditional approaches have leaned heavily on policing, grassroots movements like Liberate MKE are reframing the conversation. What if safety came from investment in people and not punishment?
Liberate MKE is a campaign where we want to, invest money back into our communities and divest money from the Milwaukee Police Department. We saw in the city budget that too much money was going to the police. Divest, extract money from their budget, over $300 million year after year, and invest into programs that people care about and people want to see invested in. Also live in a world where Black people aren't getting killed by the cops. As long as police exist, they're going to kill Black people. Mm-hmm. That's the sad reality of it. And so if we want to live in a world where Black people aren't getting killed by the police, we need to be extracting money away from the police.
We know that policing was created to protect property, and we believe that that is what it's going to continue to do, and it's not here to protect Black and brown people. So we don't believe that policing can exist in the world that we're trying to build because of the foundation of it, because of the lack of care. It's not the proper system of support to support people in the world that we are talking about building. And we've actually even gotten data to find out why people do call police, and most of the time, it's not for protection, it's for these other things that money could really be going to. And so we believe that investing into these things that are in the community can actually prevent the even need of having police if people's needs were met.
Launched in 2019 by the African American Roundtable, Liberate MKE didn't stop at advocacy. They pioneered participatory budgeting in Milwaukee, allowing residents to decide how public funds are spent directly.
One of the stories I always tell is, we were asking people, like, if we could take $25 million from the police, what would we spend it on? And one older woman said, something for my grandson. Like, I see my grandson and, he just doesn't have anything to do in the summer. And so, like, right with that, we're like, we need to invest more money into summer programs for young people. Liberate MKE is a positive campaign. Like, right, people think about, defund the police as people, activists, organizers not having a political vision rooted in hope. Actually, we are. Like, right, I started it by saying we want to invest more money into our communities, because at the heart of it, we want to move money into our communities to support libraries, to expand the hours for libraries. Like, Milwaukee has a great set of libraries that are open, just not enough hours. Why is that? Because, it doesn't have the funding it needs to expand the hours, to expand, the number of people in its workforce. And so we always have seen the city budget as a vehicle to, help radicalize people and move them towards, this understanding that in order to see the investments you want to see in your neighborhood, we have to move money from the police.
Marshalltown, Iowa, a culturally diverse manufacturing hub in the heart of the state, is known for its resilient community spirit and growing immigrant population. In the 2024 presidential election, the city leaned Republican, mirroring Iowa's broader political shift. Donald Trump carried the state decisively, winning all 6 electoral votes, defeating Kamala Harris by more than 13 percentage points, the largest margin in Iowa since 1972. With more than 25% of the population identifying as Latino or immigrant, Marshalltown, home to a significant immigrant workforce, grapples with the consequences of the Trump administration's controversial deportation agenda.
This administration is not just attacking undocumented immigrants. It seems to be going after any sort of immigration, legal or not. I don't ever remember anyone that I knew saying, hey, we have to carry a residency card or passport just to make sure that people don't identify us because of how we look. And that's where we're at right now.
The city's economy, especially in sectors dependent on immigrant labor and consumer spending, is already feeling the strain.
All the rhetoric that we've heard from, the leaders and from the White House obviously does affect us, and there's people living in fear. Again, this community depends on immigrants and their workforce. We have a lot of the labor force in the construction industry from a lot of companies that are building the Des Moines Metro, our state capital. A lot of the employees that are in those companies working on the roads, working on the construction buildings, they're all from, a lot of them, majority of them are from Marshalltown. So Marshalltown is a big workforce hub, and I'm proud to say that.
Iowa's agricultural and manufacturing rely deeply on immigrant workers, highlighting the state's dependence on communities that remain most at risk of detention. In response, Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice equips undocumented immigrants with Know Your Rights trainings, offering clear guidance on how to navigate encounters with ICE.
The way that we see it is taking what power you can back. So if I have a plan in place, if I have a safety plan, if I'm having these conversations with my family, if I know what my rights are, I know how to advocate for my rights and for my community members, if I know what to do ahead of time, I'm able to take some power back in an otherwise really powerless situation. The reality is that ICE is in Iowa, but the tactics that they're using, the level of which they're in our community, the fear that they have, the weaponized fear that they're able to utilize, it's all things that we are continually working with our communities right now.
Right after the break, we end our special right here at home in Chicago at CAN TV with a look at the power of community television.
They say television is about sitting back. We say it's about stepping up. Your block has stories worth telling. Your neighbors have voices worth hearing. Chicago has a heartbeat worth sharing. Stop watching their world. Start showing yours. It's time to tune in and be seen. Can TV, always here, always yours. Experience the power of community television.
In times of political turmoil and economic uncertainty, telling the stories of our city and neighborhoods is more critical than ever. At Can TV, we do just that. But with shrinking budgets and pressure on independent media, the future of hyper-local news is at risk. Your generous financial support ensures that we can keep shining a light on what matters most, right here in the city of Big Shoulders. Visit cantv.org and donate today. The power of community television depends on you. You, me, we are Can TV.
In a media landscape often dominated by national headlines and corporate voices, Chicago Access Network Television is flipping the script by handing the mic to the community. Can TV empowers everyday residents to create and broadcast their own content. From neighborhood updates to cultural storytelling, it's a platform where local democracy thrives and marginalized communities are heard. Chicago, Illinois. Widely known by several nicknames, most notably the Windy City. The origin of the moniker is debated, possibly referencing strong winds or even political hot air. The city is characterized by a strong Democratic Party machine that plays a significant role in shaping the state's political landscape. In the 2024 presidential election, Illinois was won by the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. Still, the land of Lincoln shifted noticeably towards Republican Donald Trump, with Harris winning the state by under an 11-point margin. Voters expressed concerns across a range of issues, including the cost of living and inflation, healthcare costs, and in the sanctuary city of Chicago, immigration.
Now families are like, hey, if I get arrested, even though I'm a green card holder or a citizen, like, here's our action plan as a family. Like, these are the stories that we're hearing. The fear, the uncertainty, our lives could just be completely upended and changed. And these are not only people who are undocumented, but people who are immigrants or even just speaking out. Even my own mother, who they've been citizens for almost 40 years, was traveling to Europe a couple of months ago, was so afraid to travel. She's like, am I going to be allowed back? I'm like, you're a U.S. citizen and your son's a lawyer, so we'll figure this out.
Sufjan Sohel is a civil rights activist and chair of the Cook County Commission on Human Rights. Sohel is also a storyteller who leverages the power of community television in highlighting coalitions that uplift frontline workers, immigrants, and underrepresented and marginalized voices.
Yesterday, I was with some friends and someone's like, oh, I saw your live segment on Can TV last night, and I learned so much about what's happening in Chicago. And watching now other community programs where it's community leaders and members sharing their own stories and perspectives, I feel so empowering on two fronts. One, what we've learned in the fighting hate world is when people see that others who look like them or identify them are willing to share their stories, it's empowering for them to share their own stories. A lot of us come from communities where we think facing discrimination, harassment, or hate is a rite of passage when we come to this country, and we hold our head down, try to muster up some courage, but it's not okay. We have to show up and say that, hey, I'm experiencing this. I see that you've experienced this. I want to stand with you and be with you. And when we see these stories and we see people sharing their work and their perspective on what's happening here or around the world, it's empowering and it's knowledge-based.
Chicago Access Network Television, better known as Can TV, empowers residents to create and broadcast their own content, promoting local democracy and providing a valuable platform for marginalized communities to be seen and heard. Established in 1983, the Hub for Community Access News delivers original hyperlocal programming, giving Chicagoans like me a voice on cable television. Lived experience is so very important in creating anchor organizations like GPLX-C that inspires young people. As publisher of the Latino News Network, I've been collaborating with CAN-TV for several years by producing and hosting programs. I'm also a frequent guest on Chicago Newsroom 2.0 with Andrea Zoff.
So Chicago Newsroom 2.0 is a kind of news magazine-y a little bit. We have journalists come in every show and talk about the issues of the day. We have an open discussion, and we also do a segment on community organizations. We have representatives from community organizations come in and talk about the work they're doing. So it's kind of two-pronged. Talk about some of the issues from getting the journalist perspective, but also then hearing what's going on at the community level and people who are making a difference. And so it's a great opportunity for people not only to hear about the challenges that are facing our city, our country, our state, but also hear some of the good things, the work that people are doing. So it's very powerful.
Chicago Newsroom 2.0 serves as a vital platform for local voices and perspectives, fostering civic engagement and providing access to information often overlooked by mainstream media.
Oftentimes people think community television and they think it's not in depth, it's not necessarily well produced. And I think what we've done at CAN-TV, what Darius Hillman, our executive director, has done is really to elevate the quality. So you're not just hearing stories, but you're hearing really in-depth conversations. We've talked about censorship of books, we've talked about City Hall, of course, we've talked about what's happening at the election. We have a lot of open offices, as you know, at the federal level here in the state of Illinois, so a really broad range. We've certainly talked about the immigration crisis and how the immigrant community is being treated and some of the challenges that are being faced, and so it's a broad range of topics, all of which are everything. We've also talked about mental health. We've talked about wellness and how people can do that. So it's really a broad range of topics, which I think is great. And I think we'll continue to do that, to not only elevate the current stories of the day, but also to bring in topics that are relevant to the community with experts and people who are dealing with those topics all the time.
Yes, and in a way that it's always authentic.
Right.
And that's because CAN-TV has always championed that media should be accessible. Executive Director Darius Hillman on amplifying voices and cultivating them.
Submit a program. As long as it honors broadcast standards, we're putting it out there. We want your work out there. That's 70% of what we do. We give you training, state-of-the-art equipment, and you can come in here from Wednesday through Saturday and use our main studio where we produce those original programs like Newsroom and In the Money. It's yours. Use the equipment, check it out, produce your own programming, and we air it. We air it properly. That's 70% of our program. 20% of programming across our 5 stations 24/7 is our nonprofit partners, big, small, where we have a platform where you can come and share your mission, share your story, help people to get engaged and active. Those original programs are 10%. We know that 10% is going to include news and information.
In an era of fractured media and disinformation, community television remains a steadfast platform for thoughtful and thought-provoking discussion and debate.
In a place where we had politicians, the inspector general, the mayor, the lieutenant governor, but we also have Miss Jones from around the block, sharing space and community. Because right now, community is where I am finding safety, it is where I am finding, and our audience is finding, shared accountability. It is where we are finding encouragement and be able to learn again how to disagree without being disagreed.
Rooted in neighborhoods and shaped by the voices of everyday people, Board Chair Nikki Lang says CAN-TV counters mainstream narratives with an unappreciated force for reliable, locally grounded journalism.
Especially in a time where sometimes people don't know where to get their news or if their news is accurately depicting what actually is happening. I've always known CAN-TV to be accurate. I've always known it to be authentic. And I think it's continuing to resonate. So You know, we want Chicagoans, when they're looking for real stories and impactful stories, that CAN-TV is the first place that they're seeking that.
The power in that is really the ability to have this honest, open conversation. We debate topics, and we don't always agree, but you hear these different perspectives.
That is the power of what we do. Sitting here having conversations where you have political leaders and citizens, important people all, who can sit in the same space, agree, disagree, have a conversation. We are going to find our answers in community.
Thank you for sharing this hour with me. Traveling coast to coast, listening to communities as they rise to meet this moment. From organizing town halls to mobilizing at the ballot box, they're demanding a democracy that honors their hopes, confronts their fears, and reflects the lived realities of everyday Americans. I invite you to visit thefulcrum.us to watch more episodes of the 50 Voices of a Nation. Hasta la próxima, Amugo Valta.